To anyone who can hear me, my name is Werner. I come from a settlement to the north. I have information of great value to anyone willing to help me free my people. Please, help us. This message repeats.
A load of different ideas, but just not enough time to truly take advantage of all of them. That's pretty much how I describe the Pit on surface. This is the second DLC for Fallout 3, and so far it's an experience that's almost a complete opposite of what Operation Anchorage was. We follow the radio signal to the man behind the voice, Werner. He tells us about a cure, a slave camp in the northwest, and a plan how we're going to free them. The slave camp shares the name of the DLC, the Pit. Obviously we're dealing with Pittsburgh here. Werner also mentions how the air and water are extremely contaminated, that people either die or turn into vicious monsters from it. Well, this sounds like a fun mystery crossed with a casual slave revolt, so I might as well get in on the action. We kill some slavers and go on our way to the Pit. Werner murders the welcome party and we're told that we won't have our equipment inside since it will be confiscated. Fine by me. We're allowed to either smuggle in a gun or a knife, and we go for the gun, which we'll find out is pretty pointless, just like smuggling in anything is. While we trudge through the streets to get to the Pit, let's talk about the graphics. The Pit looks reasonably grim, but it seems that the developers thought that grim was an interesting visual on its own. But it's thoroughly uninteresting. It's just a color filter that makes me see less, and all the environments are just, well, dull. Demolished buildings, factory rooms, and more demolished buildings. We cross a massive bridge which has been turned into a minefield, and we reach the Pit. The game immediately tries to be clever by trying to make us think that we won't be knocked out and turned into a slave, but it's more than obvious that it won't work. We wake up and are greeted by Medea, a slave that's one of the main instigators of the subversive slave activity in the camp. We talk to her privately and she wants us to blend in. To do that, we have to go on a run to the steel yard, where we have to collect 10 steel ingots. This is supposedly a death run, so we have to be extra careful. In reality though, this is an extremely easy, minor combat area, where we just do collectible hunting and pretty much just kill very easy enemies. The game introduces a new enemy type, Trogs. Honestly, on first inspection, they look amazingly creepy, which is a welcome sight. However, they end up being pretty generic monsters with relatively strong melee attacks for the strongest variants. However, any of the weaker variants are a total cakewalk. We find more than 10 ingots. In fact, we find around 75 during a very casual sweep of the area. We return and get rewarded for every 10 ingots that we bring in. Returning to Medea, we find out that the arena is being opened. Volunteer for the arena, survive its challenges, and you have a ticket to freedom. This is also the first time we see our antagonist, Asher. He's just a guy. In fact, all characters in the DLC are pretty boring people. Some of them have interesting aspects to them, however I never had a reason to care about them other than the surface story level reasons. We enter the arena and we get greeted by a total knockoff of the Oblivion arena, down to even some similar announcer lines.
Welcome him! He's earned it!
Victor from the blue team, leave the arena now and rest. You've earned it.
The items we get during the Pit DLC are honestly pretty fun. Too bad they're pretty much completely useless since most players will already have equipment that makes all the new stuff obsolete. We win the arena and we're free. Have you noticed anything? The game has wildly varied missions and ideas, but it never sticks to anything. You have this linear exploration before reaching the city, an open-ended explorable area where you have to collect things, a full arena system with thought put into it. But the game always wants to rush you through and start working on some new thing. Honestly, it's disappointing, since if they had given more time to perfecting maybe half of these ideas, the DLC would stand way better. We meet Asher, and turns out he's just, well, like I previously said, a dude, really. He's less of an antagonist, and that's for a clear reason. The Pit is trying to justify both sides here. The slaves are people who want the freedom they deserve, while Asher wants a stable society and a cure for radiation. It's almost an ends justifying the means type of moral debate. However, this quickly falls apart when you just think of what the fuck is happening here. He's a slave owner, and he runs a group of raiders. I don't care what his motivations are, he's still doing these things. If he truly cared for the cure and being a happy society, then he wouldn't be owning slaves. Instead, he'd have gone about to create a society around himself. Things would be different by now. In fact, the Pit is a very hostile living space. Why would he even be here to begin with? Anyways, we're playing a dubiously evil character, so we join Asher. The slaves are running amok, and we have to take them out. We do so and meet up with Medea, who we accidentally convinced to give up the location of Werner. The game's really trying to do a switcheroo here. A seemingly total moral paragon has been turned into a bitter man who just wants to hurt his former friend. Let's clear things up here. The cure for the radiation is actually just a baby with some certain resistances to radiation. So we can kidnap the baby, but we of course don't do that since we're with Asher. Werner's very bitter about the whole situation and tries to kill us. Of course, he fails. We go back to Asher and the DLC is done. This feels like a very sudden end. There's so much that was introduced but was never really addressed. The cure has been downgraded into a random science experiment with a baby. The Trogs are just made to look like a natural side effect to an unaddressed radiation issue, and the future of the Pit is pretty much just business as usual. So in the end, what has changed? Nothing really. We didn't learn anything new. We didn't change anything. Our situation here led us to the earlier status quo. However, perhaps that's expected from taking the Asher's path. Overall, the Pit was a decent experience. I never felt too invested, but I wasn't too bored or uninterested either. It's a very safe time. Broken Steel is up next. Share the video if you liked it, and subscribe if you're interested in more content like this. Thanks for watching.